and Stitch podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about an actual finished object, two upcoming designs that I have been working on, and a couple of whips that really are not going where they should be going at this point. I may also be doing a little bit of brainstorming about fall knitting projects. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in, I hope you will stick around. All right, everyone, it is the last podcast of summer. That is to say that today is, I don't know, August 29th. There we go. It's August 29th. It is currently 90 degrees here in Maryland, but as soon as the Labor Day weekend is over, I am calling it summer, so therefore this is the last podcast of the summer. We did have some nice fake fall weather last week. It was beautiful. Some days it was like very low humidity in the low to mid 70s, and of course that's long gone, and yesterday's high was like 100. So summer is unfortunately still here, but no matter what happens, once we get through Labor Day weekend, I'm calling it fall. So that said, I do still have some summery stuff to show you today before we get into more fallish stuff. And the big one is that I finished my outline tee. So in the last episode of the podcast, which I believe was right before we left for the beach, I was hoping to finish this at the beach. I did not, but I finished it up, I think, the week after we came home. The reason I'm not wearing this today, I have worn it several times and it is lovely and comfortable. I threw it in the laundry with the regular laundry because it is a cotton linen viscose blend yarn from Hobby, and it shrunk up a little bit lengthwise. I think if I just line dry it next time, it'll lengthen up again with no problem. I don't think it's a permanent shrinkage, but it is a bit more of a crop top than I would normally wear right this minute. So that is why I'm not wearing it today, but it is done. So if you'll recall, I ended up knitting some imaginary size of this because I cast on some random number of stitches and I have no idea why. So I cast on a number of stitches that was in between two sizes for no apparent reason. And by the time I realized it, I had already knit, the entire hem, and I didn't feel like undoing it. So I figured I'd just go with it. So this is somewhere in between, I want to say, the small and the medium size. And I didn't measure it, so I'm not really sure exactly how it came out. Maybe I feel like the sizes were like 38 and 42, and it's probably somewhere around a 40, something like that. So other than that unintentional modification, the other thing I did is that I didn't really knit sleeves. I just did a cuff, a very short cuff, and called it a day. I really wanted this to be very almost sleeveless, but not quite. I did lengthen the body a bit beyond what is called for in the pattern, maybe by a couple of inches, because I didn't really want it to be a crop top. So as I said, I have worn this a number of times. I love the color. The fabric is very comfortable. Despite the fact that it has, a lot of open stitches, I actually don't really need to wear a camisole underneath as long as I kind of wear a nude bra. That works out just fine. To be fair, I've never looked at myself from the back, so I don't know if you can see anything on the back when I wear it that way, but my hair is mostly in the way, so. But overall, this was a really simple knit. It's so fun to do the dropping the stitches that you do at the end. So she has this is a pattern by Jessie May, and she has a couple of patterns like this where at the beginning you do a setup round to create basically a series of yarn overs. And then when you drop that stitch all the way back down to the yarn over, it stops there where the yarn over was, but you get this nice open track of stitches that looks a lot different than if you were to work like a yarn over every round to create it. It looks different. The only tricky thing about that is if you screw it up, it doesn't work. If you're off by a stitch, you drop the wrong stitch, you unravel it all the way back down, and you don't unravel it back to where that yarn over was, you're kind of in trouble. So you do have to be a little bit particular about that, but she has you set up your markers in a particular way so that that doesn't happen. So this is great, a lovely summer top. And like I said, hopefully I will go ahead and line dry it next time so that it will lengthen back out. But this is a nice tee for the summer and an actual finished object. Other than that, again, because I make poor decisions, really, is just the really reason for this. Earlier in the summer, probably in the spring, I started the summer slipover, is that what it's called, pattern. I didn't get very far in it. It's probably here. So I'm doing this in a wool cotton blend, so it really is more of a fall project anyway, despite the fact that it's sleeveless. I haven't gotten very far. So you can see this is a textured stitch that is a series of knit and purl. So it's like a rib, a mock rib, because on the opposite side it's not ribbed. But I wasn't paying attention and I threw the patterning off by one stitch and then worked a number of rows without realizing that. And so then, you know, if you get it off by one stitch, then all the rest of the stitches, so you can't just drop down and fix it. You have to rip back. So I had to rip back like, I don't know, about an inch. I picked it back up. Everything is all fixed now. I just haven't made much progress on it. It's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I did a really nice, neat, I don't know if I did a tubular cast on or an alternating cable cast on, I can't even remember, but it looks nice and neat. It's got a nice, neat slip stitch edge. But for whatever reason, I lost a little bit of motivation for this. So obviously, it being August, I cast on another summer project. Again, this isn't necessarily a summer project because I am knitting it in a yarn that is a wool blend. So this is the yarn I am using. This is, come on, there we go. This is Amano yarns. I want to say it's Chaski. Let me grab the skein. Yeah, so this base is called Chaski. I don't know why. Chaskis were the running messengers of the Inca Empire. I actually just finished writing an article about that. It won't be published for several months, so I can't link to it. Who knows, maybe in the future I'll remember to come back to the video description for this video and put it in there. Chaskis were the running messengers of the Inca Empire. This yarn is called Chaski. I don't know why. It is from Amano yarns. It is a 60% superwash merino, 30% cotton, 10% linen. So it's not a super summer yarn. It is a lot of wool. But the pattern I'm doing is definitely pretty summery. And I'm gonna get this wrong, so I better check because I always call it the wrong thing. So this is the Ripple halter. And this is how far I've gotten. So this is the collar, and just this would be like the armhole shaping, and this is, because it's all rib, it's very, very flexible, so this will stretch all the way out. And it's not done yet, so I still need, I think I had 6 more rows to go. Again, I cast on the wrong number of stitches for this, and I do not know how. For some reason, it's like I've forgotten how to count. I do double check, I don't know what's going on. So for some reason, I had the wrong number of stitches for this. So I had already started, I had knit the whole collar. I didn't feel like making adjustments. I didn't feel like ripping it back. So I just kind of made some adjustments, which I think means, so you can see you're increasing along this edge. So these stitches here all stay the same, and then you're increasing in the rib pattern. And what you want when you're done is to end up with 2 purls next to these 2 knit stitches that are here. But because I screwed up, if I do the number of increases the pattern says, I'm not going to end up with 2 purls. I'm going to end up with 2 knits. I haven't figured out how I'm going to fix that yet. I can obviously do an extra set of increases. It'll be just a little bit bigger. Then I had to make sure I do the same thing for the back. So it's just a matter of keeping track of the change I've made so that I can do the same thing on the back side and then see how that plays out in the rest of the body of this thing. But so far the yarn has been really nice to work with. You know, you get the nice stretchiness from the wool because it is mostly wool, but it is a little bit less heavy with some cotton mixed in there instead of just 100% wool. So this may still end up being something nice for the fall. I could easily layer this under something. Or, you know, we'll get a whiff of fall weather and I'll just completely forget all about it. I don't know. Yeah, so for some reason I started another summer top that, this is nice. It's kind of, it's a little bit potato chippy in that you want to see like the pattern coming together and how the rib lines up so nicely when you do the correct increases. So I actually have made a decent bit of progress for how long I've been working on it, mixed in with other stuff. So I don't know what's gonna happen to it. Is it ever gonna be finished? Who knows? And I believe that's really all the whips I have been working on. I did start getting out some of the projects that I put away in the spring that are more fall sweaters, and tried to figure out where I am on those so that I can get them back on the needles. So one of those is my aisle pullover, and I'm already like halfway through one sleeve and I just need to do the sleeve. So hopefully that can be done somewhat early in the fall winter season. And I think I've got at least 2 more sweaters that are in various states around here that I'll probably be digging into in the next couple of weeks and putting back on the needles. But what I've actually been working on a lot is some crochet. So I'm going to show you the 2 projects I have been working on. So the one is, I forget what it's called, like Granny Square Market Tote or something like that. And I finished one nice big granny square that would make up either the front or the back of the bag. And then I started the second one. So you just partially part of the way through this row, you just are making these 2 big squares, and then you will crochet them together on the sides and the bottom and then make a handle. So the only thing I did different on this one is I reversed my my contrast color. So you can see this one, that's the back side. This one goes white, brown, white, blue, and so this is white, blue, white, brown. That's the only difference really, but I do feel like my gauge is a little different on this one. I guess because I've been doing a lot of granny squares and getting better and faster at it. I feel like my gauge has loosened up a little bit. It's just a tote bag. It doesn't really matter. But just something I've noticed that, you know, once I get moving with these, they really do become pretty intuitive. The other thing is, look at all these ends. Look at this. Probably there's a way to weave them in as you go. I don't know, but I haven't looked it up, but I have so many ends and it only gets worse. Because the other project I have been working on is also granny squares, and this one is even worse because each row round, it's only 1 row round of each color instead of 2, so there's even more ends. But I have made all the squares for my Stevie bum bag. So all my squares are done, and again I just altered the order of the colors just to mix it up a little bit for these 2. And these make up the front and back and 2 sort of angled sides of this little, well, here in the US we would, at least at some point, we call it a fanny pack, and now I don't think we call it that anymore. So I finished all 4 of the granny squares that I needed, and I even did the little the little quarter square that goes, I think that's the back side. I actually don't know. This is the back side. This is the front. That goes over the top to like a little flap that goes over the top. There's so many ends. Look at this. It's terrible. I started weaving in the ends on this little tiny one. And like I gave up after 5 minutes. There's so many of them. Oh, definitely something I should have probably paid a little bit more attention to so that I could learn how to work them in as I go and not end up with all of these stupid ends, if that's even possible. I'm just assuming. I don't know anything about crochet. But I knit all the pieces, I crocheted all the pieces, and I need to block them, and I got a little blocking board thing. I'm sure you've seen them on like Instagram or Pinterest. It's like I don't even know where it is. Anyway, it's like a board with lots of little holes in it, and then you put the posts in the correct diameter, the correct area for your square, and then you can, soak them and slide them over the posts and let them dry that way, so they'll be all the same size. So I did get that. I obviously have not done that yet because I want to weave in all these ends. Oh, but anyway, after that, I start joining together the squares. So it's like this one goes in the middle, and then this one kind of gets folded and joined kind of like that. And then the other one on the other side. So it makes a shape like that. And then there's, some more crocheting for the straps, and there's a little bit of hardware involved. I did order that as well. So I'm hoping maybe I'll be able to be using this in the fall. I have a fair bit of this yarn left. I still need to use a lot of this to join the squares and to do the rest of the straps and things, but the pink and the gray, I have a fair bit left. So I'm kind of looking for another project for that. So those are all of my whips and FOs currently. Lots of crocheting. So I do want to brainstorm just a little bit kind of about the fall. Not really about specific patterns, but some yarns that I have and some like vague ideas for projects. So I have some yarns that I really want to use coming up for this kind of fall winter season. So one of them is this fisherman's wool. So if you caught my video about yarn shopping on Amazon, that is where I got this. I've got, I think, 3 of these in, what does it say? It has some kind of name, birch tweed, that I want to do some kind of a little bit of rustic, cozy cardigan with. I really want to give this a try. A lot of people have said some nice things about this. I can tell, this is not something I want right next to my skin necessarily. It's not awful, but it's not as soft as I like the yarns that I wear close to the skin. But so I want to kind of look for something for this. I'm not 100% sure, but I think a cardigan. It is a worsted weight yarn, and it has a lot of nice tweediness. So I need something, like I don't need something that's got a lot of stuff going on, because the yarn itself, has plenty going on with it. So that is one of the yarns that I want to use for the fall. Now this is interesting. So on here, I don't know if you can see this, it's trying to tell you how much you need for stuff. It says you need 1 for a hat, 2 for a scarf, 7 for a sweater. This is 348 yards. That's insane. Alexa, what's 348 times 7?
348 times 7 is 2,436.
That's almost 2,500 yards of yarn. Yes, for some larger sizes, you might need that much yarn. But I don't think for the average sweater, you need 2,500 yards of yarn. In my case, you know, depending on the weight, it's usually, unless it's like super heavily cabled, it's usually somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500. Again, depending on the weight and if it's like super cabled or whatever, but 2,500 seems excessive. I'm pretty sure I have 3 of these. So yeah, this is one of the yarns I really would like to use for the fall. Another one is this. So this is the Knit Picks Altiplano. This is a worsted weight yarn. It is, I think, just 100% wool. Yarn stuff. Let me see. Oh no, it is 65% wool, 35. I knew that because I love wool alpaca blends. It's 65% wool, 35% alpaca. It doesn't feel super alpaca-y, but it's probably because the wool is not a merino wool. It is just a random wool, just as wool. Made in Peru. Oh, you know what I would love to do? Knit Pick should hire me for this. I would love to go to Peru and do like a series of videos with their producers. I speak Spanish. I've been to Peru many times. My husband is from Peru. I feel like I could do a good job with this. You should hire me, Knit Picks. I got this because I was really excited for Knit Picks to have a wool alpaca blend. So they have their Simply Wool Worsted, which I like, and then they have a 100% alpaca. I don't love 100% alpaca for sweaters. It's too slippery and drapey, in my opinion. So I was really excited when they got a wool alpaca blend. So I got enough of this for a sweater. Again, it's a worsted weight, so I'm looking for something to do with this. I am not super sure what I'm looking for. I know that I want a sweater. I don't really have an opinion cardigan pullover. I'm kind of leaning cardigan. This is, again, it's got some alpaca, but the wool is a little bit rustic feeling, so it probably, you know, I don't need to worry too much about it holding its shape. You know, so if you have like a really slippery yarn, sometimes something with a lot of cables or something seamed is going to help keep structure in that garment. I don't think that's going to be a concern here. So I think I have kind of free reign with what I want to do with this yarn. But the reason I got this color is because I wanted something that was going to kind of go with everything. So I think I'm kind of looking for a cozy, slightly oversized, maybe with a collar, pullover of some kind. I haven't gotten really beyond that. But I think that's kind of where I am going with this. In a worsted weight, it doesn't need to be cabled. I think, you know, maybe some texture, maybe some ribbing, fisherman's rib, but nothing that is going to sort of limit what I can wear it with, because I really want it to be just a go with everything kind of sweater. I feel like maybe Ozetta or Petite Knit, maybe, who's the other designer? There's some other designer, I can't remember, Kadri maybe, who has some kind of relatively straightforward sweater designs that are not crazy cables, not weird shaping, not, you know, nothing that's like super innovative, but just is giving you sort of very classic lines, subtle details. I think one of their kind of patterns may be where I'm leaning toward this, but another yarn I definitely want to use. All right, and then the last yarn, I have a much better idea what I want to do with this one. And that is, I've got this Knit Picks Gloss. This is a DK weight yarn. It is black, as you can see. I really haven't worked with black before, but I want to get a real wardrobe staple here in kind of a ribbed, closer fitting, probably short sleeved pullover design. I think that Fable Knitwear has a couple of patterns that kind of fit this bill. A little bit vintage looking, like maybe 50s, 60s style. maybe it has, you know, a little bit of a puff on the sleeve or some kind of detail like that. But just a very classic ribbed turtleneck sweater of some kind is really what I think I'm going to go for with this one. I don't knit with black, but at the same time, I really want something that's just going to kind of go with everything. I want sort of that wardrobe staple in my wardrobe. I have a lot of lovely chunky, in case you missed it, I did a video here reviewing and ranking all of my hand knit sweaters. So if you're curious about what sweaters I have, you can go watch that. I've got a lot of cables, I've got a lot of color, I've got some open work stuff, and that's lovely. But I really just, this year, I think I want to focus on getting some more wardrobe staples, at least in terms of patterns that I am knitting from other people. You know, I think there are a lot of great patterns out there sort of in this vein. And so usually when I'm designing, I tend to do more involved patterns. I don't feel like there's a lot of market for another, you know, plain turtleneck sweater. I think there are some nice patterns out there already, so I think I'm not gonna have trouble finding what I'm looking for. I may have trouble deciding how to narrow it down, but I'm pretty confident there is a sweater out there that fits this bill. And then I'm gonna have the adventure of really working with black yarn for the first time. I maybe have incorporated some black yarn into, so I used to have a pair of Hufflepuff socks, I called them. They were black and yellow. So I've definitely worked a little bit with black yarn before, but never a whole sweater. We will see how that goes. So this is, the gloss is, I think, a wool silk blend, 70% merino wool, 30% silk. And it seems pretty loosely plied. So I definitely need something that is going to give more structure, maybe something seamed, I don't know. But that is kind of where I'm going for this. I need some of these classic pieces in my wardrobe, and I just don't have them. So this, I think, this is where I'm going with some of my yarns this season. So fall is always just kind of an inspirational season, and I have been doing some designing. And I want to show you this one because I hadn't even started this when I did the last episode of the podcast, and it is already almost done and in testing. So I got this whole t-shirt done in about 3 weeks, I want to say. This is using Camellia Fiber Co. flax fingering, so fingering weight yarn. Obviously, it is a blend of alpaca, linen, and silk. And all I have left to do for this is to add another sleeve. I don't have a sleeve over here, and you can see the sleeve is really short. So from here, it just looks kind of like a basic t-shirt, but it has some nice details on the back shoulder. So the back is worked by creating kind of a trapezoid, cast on for the back neck, then you increase to make the shoulder lines, and then you work straight down to the armholes. And then you were going to pick up the fronts along those increased stitches on the shoulder, and then, you know, work down to the armhole and join there, and then down to the bottom. So this is already in testing. As I said, this really only took me about 3 weeks to knit. And the big thing here is this neat line, a lateral braid. And then if you've worked those before, you know that the row afterward is usually really loose. And because this lateral braid is worked holding your yarn double, it's even looser. So instead of trying to counteract that, I just kind of made it part of the element of the design. So you can see the braid, and then that row of loose stitches after, and then a row of purl stitches to kind of frame it. So that is on the back of both shoulders. It is then repeated This is not blocked, as you can probably tell. I literally just finished binding off. So that's repeated on the bottom, along the bottom hem. Here, same thing. And then the little sleeves, I included a lateral braid bind off around the edges. This lateral braid is only worked with one strand instead of two, otherwise you get like a really thick chunky cuff. But it's the braid and the bind off are worked simultaneously for the cuffs. So as I said, this is already in testing. I finished this up so quickly that it is already there. It is nice, big, and loose and breezy. Again, this has not been blocked, so I think, it's gonna lengthen out a little bit. Some of the, a little bit of the, it's kind of pulling inward a little bit along the neckline. That's gonna even out nicely, I think, and a little bit of the unevenness at the hem. But yeah, 3 weeks and this was done. So because this yarn has some alpaca in it, and silk, which can also be a bit heavy, I am kind of considering this more of a mid-season piece that I am planning to publish in early to mid-October. It's going to make a nice layering piece once the weather does get cool, but before then, in situations where there's a little chill in the air, you need a little bit of warmth. You've got the alpaca in here, and alpaca is very warm. It is a very warm fiber. You've also got silk, which can trap heat a little bit, but you've got lots of cotton that's just going to help give it a little bit more structure because this is completely seamless. So as I said, you pick up the fronts on the shoulder line, but then the entire body is worked seamlessly in the round. It has a bit of an A-line shape. It doesn't have a name. I have not figured out a name for this one yet. So I'm still kind of thinking about that, just calling it my mid-season tee for now. But I really like that kind of just a subtle detail on the back shoulders. And this yarn was really lovely to work with. So look at that. A whole sample done in 3 weeks. Sometimes I can actually get stuff done and move relatively quickly. It is, other than kind of that shoulder detail on the hem, it is just, stockinette. There's some increases and shaping along the neckline and things like that, but it's being all stockinette and the body being all knit in the round, it does move pretty swiftly. I believe the yoke of this I knit on a US 4, and then when I joined in the round, I moved up to a US 5 because I know I do knit more tightly when I am working in the round. So it is a lovely yarn. It was easy to work with. It does shed a little bit. That's sort of just the nature of alpaca. You get a little bit of shedding, but overall it was very nice. It's nice and soft, and so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how this fits once it's actually blocked. I just have to add that one sleeve, and then we will be moving on from there. But you can look for this in October. All right, the other design I started is not moving nearly as swiftly, but it's because it is entirely cabled. So I started this a couple of weeks ago. According to my own schedule, should be a little further along now than I am, but since I was moving so swiftly on that other project, I really wanted to focus on that. Now that it's basically done, I'm gonna refocus my energy on this one. So this is a saddle shoulder, will be pullover, worked in Rerum Natura Ulysse. So I had bought this yarn for a test knit that ultimately I wasn't happy with and quit. And I still had the yarn and it was just sitting there making me sad. So I decided I was gonna repurpose it. I actually don't know if I have enough of it, just because with this all over cables. So this, what I've done here, I've worked the saddles and I'm about 2 rows shy of being done with the back down to the armhole. So this, you kind of fold the saddle in half, and so that's, your armhole is going to be a drop saddle. So there's some short row shaping. It's going to go like this, kind of like that, and then here's your armhole slash upper arm. So all of this used, I'm trying to remember where I joined the yarn. It used 1 and a little bit balls of yarn. So I want to say 2 days ago, joined the second ball of yarn. So that's not bad, but I still don't think I actually have enough. I think I may have to buy another ball. No big deal. This is a really reasonably priced yarn. So this is $9.50. This color is arable or érable if you are French, maybe, I don't know. Ulysse is a sport weight yarn. I may or may not, I probably ordered this from Fiber Space, which is relatively close, so I could get some more if I need it. And so this is $9.50 for, I always do this, Alexa, how many yards is 185 meters?
185 meters is about 202 yards.
Okay, so about 200 yards, $10, under $10. It's not terrible. Maybe I might have to order another one, but this cables, I am so pleased with them. So I'm just gonna pass this by slowly so you can see. I love an all over cable, anything. So in this, I've kind of incorporated some cables that I have used in past designs that I have liked and just kind of mashed them up into a bit of a new design. Also incorporating a couple of new cables that I have just recently been fond of. So as I said, I'm almost on the back, so the next step is going to be to pick up along the opposite side of the saddle and start working the fronts, and that's going to incorporate some neck shaping. I am planning to give this a big chunky fold over collar. As I said, it's a pullover, a bit of an A-line shape, not maybe just a very slight 2-inch difference maybe in the body. Probably not full length sleeves, probably just below the elbow sleeves. The sleeves will repeat the saddle pattern down the arm, but then the rest will be in stockinettes. They will go a little bit faster. Yeah, so I am loving this. I love all over cabled things. The yarn it's not the super softest yarn, but it is definitely very cozy. I love the Rerum Natura yarns. This is tentatively a mid to late November design. I can see I've got a lot of work left, and if I want to get an 8-week test for this, that means it needs to be done by the end of September to get a good 8 weeks in there. So this will be coming, but this is definitely a longer project. It will go faster after I pick up the fronts, figure out the neck shaping in combination with the short rows. There are just some, I want to say 4 short rows, just to give you a little bit of that shoulder. It's not, because there's a little bit of a wider neckline, just because it's going to be filled in with the big cozy collar that I think I'm doing. Once that stuff is done, the yoke is always the trickiest part. Once we're onto the body, I'll be knitting in the round, so that's going to go faster. Sleeves will also be in the round, but also there'll be some probably reverse stockinette on the sides of the body, and that's where the shaping will take place. And again, it's just going to be a little bit subtle A-line shape, so that I don't have to worry about trying to figure out incorporating increases and decreases into stitch patterns. So once we get beyond the yoke, things get a lot easier. But I just love this so much. And I'm going to toot my own horn, but I just love cables. So now that t-shirt is done, I'm going to refocus my energy on that one. And I do have one more design that I put on hold from the spring. This is a sort of collar dicky cowlet kind of thing that I was working on in the spring. I'm not even 100% sure where I left off on this. I hope I have some notes for it somewhere. So you can see it's got a big cozy collar, folded over. It's got this shaping along, come on, will you just, shaping along the shoulder line here so that it will go out kind of just to the edge of your shoulders, and then I'm going to start decreasing so it forms a triangle in the front, and it's just this mock cable pattern. Relatively straightforward. This is Knitting for Olive heavy merino, I want to say. It's definitely Knitting for Olive. I'm almost certain it's heavy merino. Let's see if there's a ball of it. Yeah. So Knitting for Olive, heavy merino in Dusty Petroleum Blue. It's like one of my favorite colors of theirs. This kind of blue-gray. So this is really something that's going to be wintry, maybe December, you know, something like that. It would also kind of make a nice gift. So maybe December is a good choice for this. But yeah, I have not really done anything with this since the spring. And I'm not going to focus my energy there now. I'm going to focus it on this cable sweater that I just love it. I think part of the reason I haven't been moving forward this is that I keep forgetting the selvages. It's something like always slip the first stitch and always, and I can't remember if it's knitwise or purlwise, and it's like always knit the last stitch on the right side. And I can't, like the rest of the pattern is so simple, but I cannot keep it in my head, the selvages. And I was just gonna sit here and work on this while I chat a little bit, and I can't because I don't remember what I'm supposed to do with the selvages. That's really annoying. All right, so I did pick up this sock yarn in Peru last year, and I just cast on a plain pair of socks. Always use more socks. So I just wanted to chat a little bit. It has been a month since I did the podcast. I was about to leave for the beach. We went to the beach. We went to Virginia Beach this year. It was fine. So the house was really nice. It had its own pool, and it was also on, I guess Virginia Beach has these canals. They're like, I think rather shallow waterways, presumably that lead out to the ocean at some point. And there were people boating in them. There were people doing a little bit of paddle boarding. I would not get in there. It was very marshy, and there was a lot of, you could see the oil kind of from the boats floating on floating on the top of the water. So nobody was swimming in them, but you know, sometimes you fall off the paddleboard. I would not have done that. You can fish on them. You can, and our place had a little pier you could fish right off of. My dad did try to fish with the kids a little bit. We did not catch anything. So the house was nice. The Virginia Beach itself, I think I still prefer the Outer Banks. But it was nice. It was somewhat relaxing. You know, my kids don't actually like the beach, but they like having their own pool for a week. I think I really only went to the beach twice and did not stay for particularly long either time. So I haven't really polled my family about what they thought, you know, in general. I mean, I think they were happy with it. I don't know. It really was not. The reason we went to Virginia Beach is because the drive to the Outer Banks with traffic is usually and you know, stop for lunch is 6 or 7 hours. My dad is 77 now, so it's getting a bit much for him, and he wanted to try someplace closer. So we booked the place in Virginia Beach, but when we go to the Outer Banks, we purposefully pick a house that flips over on either a Friday or a Sunday. Everything in Virginia Beach flipped on Saturday. So we had no choice but to go on a Saturday, and with the traffic, it was not shorter than going to the Outer Banks. I think it took us 5 hours, and we did not stop for lunch. So it really didn't save us much time. I don't know, maybe a half hour. So we'll see. The fact is, like I said, my kids don't actually like the beach. They like having their own pool. So my husband and I are kind of thinking about changing things up for next year, but that is a long way away. So We came back. My oldest went to nature camp. We visited like every zoo in the local area. And now school has started again. Today is the 4th day of school. My oldest is starting middle school, and we were able to get him into a magnet program. So his school is about 10 miles away, but in the DC suburbs, so with traffic and everything. It's about a 25-minute drive, but they have a bus for kids coming in from out of the immediate area that stops at our local middle school, which is about 10 minutes away. And so we have been putting him on that bus, but despite the fact that this bus only has 3 stops, for some reason it is taking them forever to get to the school. So the first day, he was supposed to get picked up at 7:30, 7:29. The bus did not come until 7:50. God only knows what time he got to school. The second day, bus was supposed to pick him up at 7:29. Bus got there at 7:39, so 10 minutes late. Yesterday, they decided the buses were going to start coming 15 minutes earlier. So now I got to get him there at 7:15. Picking them up today at 7:15 and we have a toll road that cuts across this particular part of Maryland that for some reason they were not taking, and I don't know why. They decided to take that today, and they got to school on time. So we're having a little bit of drama with the buses. I could just drive him to school, but it's, I don't love that idea. I don't want to spend all day driving around because I've got, my youngest child is in a different school in an entirely different part of town. So I've got to make sure, somebody's home to get this kid off that bus and this kid from that bus, or pick this kid up at school. It's a little complicated to start the year. So, but at least they're back in school. I am finally getting some work done. Of course, they've only got 1 week, and then we have Labor Day, so they get a 3-day weekend. And for his birthday, I got my husband a smoker. And so this weekend we've invited some friends and family over for ribs. He is very excited about. I don't even eat ribs, so I'm excited about the other food that I'm going to be preparing. Macaroni and cheese and a dessert board. And then, like I said, that's it. Summer is over. I'm calling it fall. And of course, I am looking forward to fall. My sister and I are going up to Deep Creek, which is in Western Maryland, for their wine festival, the first full weekend. And so not this coming weekend, but the weekend after that. Which we did last year and was nice. The problem is it's about 3 hour, 2.5 hour drive. It's fine. We get a little cabin. This year, I think she rented it starting on a Thursday night. But because of our issue with the buses and trying to get kids to different places, I can't leave my husband on his own on Friday to get the kids to and from school by himself. So I'm not going to be able to leave until everybody gets home or is home at 4 o'clock. Would have been nice to get an extra day up there, but I was really hoping that with this bus, had the bus been running on the schedule it is supposed to, then it should not be a problem, but it looks like it's going to be a problem because the buses so far are not running on time. So unfortunately for me, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that, which is a bummer, but it'll still be a nice weekend. I know the last time we went there last year, it is up in the mountains, so it's generally cooler up there, and it was a particularly cool weekend, and it felt all fallish, and it was so nice. I'm hoping we'll get just as lucky this year. And other than that, getting back into a regular routine, kids in school, doing work during the day. The other thing is that my kids are up by 6 o'clock. Rain, shine, vacation, not vacation, doesn't matter. They're up by 6 o'clock, usually. They're up by 6 o'clock, always, sometimes earlier. And so usually, especially during the summer, it would kind of wake me up and then I could just fall back asleep for a little bit. But now, we had to be out the door at 7 o'clock. So I cannot go back to sleep. And I'm very tired. I'm not used to getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, and I don't, generally speaking, go to bed super late, but I also don't sleep all that well. I end up waking up a lot and having weird dreams, and you know, I needed that extra time in the morning. So that so far is a bummer. But the nice thing is that I am, you know, I have to get up early, but both kids are on the bus and out of the house by 8:15, and so I'm, you know, I'm able to get in like 2 hours worth of work by 10:30 in the morning, and that is nice to get some work going early in the day. So for those who maybe don't know, in addition to designing knitting patterns here and there, I am a freelance translator, and I am also a writer and editor for a website called The Collector, which focuses on a lot of history-related articles. So it's nice to be able to get up and get some work done. You know, if I have to wake up early, it's nice to get that work out of the way, so then, you know, throughout the rest of the day, I can focus on pattern design and other things that I am doing. So that is basically what has been going on around here. I just finished watching the Decameron on Netflix. I enjoyed it. My husband kept falling asleep on it, so I guess he did not enjoy it so much. We finally finished Succession, which I liked at the beginning, and then by the end, it felt like it was just the same thing over and over again, the backstabbing and the schemes and the betrayal, and so I was kind of over it by the end. And now we are just waiting for Outlander to come back in November. We've got a bit of a wait. I think that'll be our next big show. If you have any recommendations, please share them. You know, I'm still waiting for another season of Andor. I don't know when that's coming. Not because I'm a big Star Wars person, but because I'm a big Diego Luna person. And I've been watching that 90s show, which I love. It's not great, but I love it just because they really did a good job of replicating the 90s as I remember them, when I basically was the same age as the main character. So it's 1996, I think, and she is 16, or has just turned 16. So I also turned 16 in 1996, so it's that part of it is spot on, and so I've really been just enjoying that part. Not that like there's great storylines or fantastic acting or anything, but it is entertaining. So, and they've had some really interesting and funny guest stars as well. So if you are also a child or a teenager of the 90s, like I am, and enjoy a bit of nostalgia, you should definitely check out that 90s show on Netflix. Yeah, and that's, but if you have recommendations for some other TV shows, let me know. I'm always looking for a good, usually a historical drama. Historical fiction is my preferred, you know, genre of books, and also kind of TV shows as well. So if you have any recommendations, please share them. All right, that is it for this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Links to everything that I've talked about are going to be in the description box down below. So all of the patterns that I mentioned here can be found there. If you enjoyed this episode, I hope you will give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I've got new knitting, mostly related content here every Saturday. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Media Peruana, and I will see you next time. Bye.